it. Oh, okay. Hopefully I can get in here pretty quick. Let me get my camera adjusted here. I got it up a little bit too high. There we go. That's a little bit better, I hope. See if I can get on here. All right. Trying to get that. Hey, Ryan. Hi, Greg. I'm signing on just a minute or two late here. Sorry about that. I'm trying to do too many things this morning. I'm trying to update a iPad. Hey, Chris, missed you last week because I noticed you were busy putting out a lot of videos this week. Did you ever get the 55 running? I'm trying to get a few things running here this morning myself. I'm trying to get my iPad updated. I haven't updated it, put the new OS on it yet. Yeah, I noticed. I saw the video where you were trying to crank it and it was turning up. It was about to hit, and you said, "Oh gosh, the timing's off on it." And that's the last video I saw. I guess you got it running, got the timing set. That's something we don't even have to worry about nowadays usually. And so it's one of those things. But yeah, it's good to see you got that up and going, and your step van and a few other things. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see the second one. I guess I got busy. I saw the first one, and you and Ricky was doing your fancy camera work, and uh, I assume, and you were explaining everything, and I saw the flame come out of the carburetor at one time. I said, well, I hope he's got something to cover that up. Keep you a fire extinguisher close by. Yeah. Have you done anything to your Corvette that you had? Are you still hanging on to it, or have you sold it, or done anything with it? I know that I'm trying to do two things here at one time. I'm trying to. I scared myself last night. I thought I'd lost I got several iPads, and when I had our 50th reunion at the house, I said, well, I need to put some of this up. I don't need to have everything loose like this. So I put some stuff up, and invariably, you know what happens when you put things up, you lose it. Yeah. Well, I didn't, thank goodness I didn't lose it completely. Didn't lose it completely. Well, this week's gone fairly normal. Had a few on vacation, a couple of vacation days we had to cover as far as our trucking. We're working hard trying to get a few extra things established over here at the Napa store. Uh, there's always promotions and, things you want to do. Yeah, I understand that too, Chris. Yeah, you can, you gotta, one thing we always have over here for sure with all the trucks is plenty of ways to jump off things. I mean, you've got to be able to you got to be able to jump items off. That's for sure. I mean, because it can be it can be very tough. It can be very tough doing that. I don't know if any of y'all are old Cream fans, I just noticed on the news, I was clicking on my computer, Ginger Baker passed away, the drummer of Cream, because I think he was having some medical problems anyway. But I noticed that I was trying to do other things, and that headline came across. He was a heck of a drummer. If you like, if you like some of that old heavy metal rock and roll, well, Cream wasn't. Well, they. I guess they were heavy metal in a way too, but they were a pretty good group. I didn't initially like them when I was a young kid. I mean, things were so dramatic the way they switched things. Now, a lot of kids really went right straight to them, but I initially didn't pick up on them and think that was the best sounding group. But then I grew to like it a little bit better after a few years and all that sort of stuff. It's been a while since I've been over here working on this computer. I've lost a lot of ID stuff and everything else. Yeah, Eric Clapton's good. I still like Eric Clapton, but the whole sound of Cream, it was so different that initially. I'm gonna adjust this camera one more time, guys, if y'all don't mind. I'm gonna take it down just a little bit there. That's a little bit better, I think. Yeah, I've got this newer camera. I put a newer camera on this computer, and it's a Logitech HD 1080p camera, and it seems to do a lot better than the other camera the one that came with the computer. So I've been trying to improve my signal, and yeah, I hope the volume's good, the audio and everything. But I'm trying to improve that because when you don't, and I've tried to read a lot of things on YouTube. I mean, the young people that have found out how to make it work. I've kind of gone back and listened to them on some things or what makes it work and how you get more subscribers and everything else. Of course, content is the one thing. I probably don't. I need to put more content and less just talk and that sort of stuff. But that's what you get sometimes. You got with me. I'm just a live performer and want to talk and chat. I like chatting with the guys and stuff like that. But I'm trying to I am who I am. Just want to chat, bring a little knowledge of what I know to the program, and maybe people like it, maybe people don't. I don't know. It's just I try to give a different perspective. I mean, there's a lot of young people out here. Yeah, I'm a little bit like that too, Chris. Uh, yeah, well, that's the thing. I've been real busy this week, and I've got some pretty good videos. I think. I mean, clarity and everything else. I hope the content. I got one where I was mowing down at my pond. It's kind of you don't think about how spooky that can be sometimes, but uh, when I was mowing with my track hoe, and that can kind of get to you because it's a bush hog. Basically, it's a big bush hog hanging off, extended out 12 to 15 feet. So the weight of that bush hog is a lot more than you realize. And then when you got that and you got the angle of the pond and you got the pond in front of you, it makes you think twice. uh, uh, I don't have the nerve of Ricky and Chris. I can tell you that, not anymore. In my younger days, I probably did, but uh, you don't want to see me flipping a piece of equipment over. I'm buckled in. I've got the roll cage. I've got everything that I think I can use to keep myself from getting hurt. And that's the way I try to do things because I don't want I don't want to get hurt at my age because at my age I don't mend too easily. When you get to be my age, it's harder to mend than it is when you're 30. So that's the way I look at it. So I'm trying to let me see if I can get all my. I'm gonna get all my updates here. I'm trying to trying to update all my iPads and everything else. I got the high speed access over here, and it should update fairly quick over here. I hope. We will see. I hope it doesn't make my other signal buffer if I start doing too much uploading and downloading. Yeah, that's I'm sort of like Greg. I used to be, I mean, I still will pick, put, big equipment on trailers and a few things like that. But I have a tendency to not like the, the tilting of things. I actually I actually did turn my track hoe over a little bit about a year and a half ago, and it knocked the track off and everything. And we had to jack it up. I mean, I didn't get it completely over, but I got it tilted pretty bad. It knocked the uh, it got it got my attention real good. I tell you, I was lifting up a big oil drum, and it was on a slant, and I just swung it around. And when I swung it, and I didn't have the feet in front of me like that I should, it toppled me over on that oil barrel a little bit, knocked off the track. So it was kind of spooky there a little bit, and I don't like having that track hoe to do that. Well, hey there, comfortable man. How are you? Yeah, yeah. I just bought a bulldozer, a loader from my brother-in-law. He had it up in the mountain. I believe it's a case, pretty good size case loader, track loader, and I'm gonna bring it back down. I'm gonna have that down on the farm so I can do some things. I'll tell you what, yeah, if you don't have the outriggers, I've got them on my telehandler and a lot of the others. Those outriggers are there for a purpose, and if you don't, if that outrigger is not stable, if it's not stable where you won't flip something over, uh, you're asking for it. You could get yourself killed real quick. And I try my best not to put myself into that position at all because I've seen it tear up some equipment. The only one I really, my big Traco 550, of course, I've had it in some precarious situations too, but usually you could do about anything with it without worrying about it. I mean, it had so much counterbalance weight that you could swing it in just about any position because the motor stuck out so far in the back that any time it didn't matter where your wheels or your tracks were or anything else. And it actually didn't have a blade with it, I don't think, or did it? No, it didn't have a blade. Uh, but you could swing it around and just drop it anywhere. It was pretty neat. I like bobcats. I tell you, I like my bobcats. I got three. I got the Traco, I got the Tool Cat, and I got the T300. And those, uh, uh, any man that wants to do any kind of work, you can't beat the bobcats. Well, or comparable. I had some New Hollands at one time too. Uh, the New Holland was pretty good. I just had an opportunity to get bobcats and 0% interest. I got suckered in all of it. I bought them new, 0% interest, and 4 or 5 years or whatever. And I'm going, hey, what the heck? I'll take it. And so I did. But I've got a mixture of good used or good new equipment. I bought my tractor brand new. I got a New Holland tractor, and I bought my three Bobcats brand new. And those are, let's see, outside equipment. That's Well, then I bought some attachments, to go along with that. I've got my stump grinder for my Bobcat equipment, which is really good, and then my bush hog goes with it, and my 4-in-1 bucket, and those things are all I bought new. Then I bought a couple of used pieces, and then we actually invented a couple. I like that's one thing I like about the Bobcat. You can buy the plate and then weld any kind of attachment you want onto it or extension and everything else. And a lot of times I like to look at what people have done online and what kind of equipment. And I've got a couple of pieces that I got one that I invented. I invented a cage. I had a guy help me build it, and it was off my fork system. So when I'm using my forks, I can just slide my forks in it, and then I got like a framework that's I want to say 8 by 8 or something like that, and it's made out of you know it's made out of I don't see what it is, not quarter inch. Well, it's square tubing. It's made out of square tubing. I got it might be about inch and a half square tubing, and I made a frame all the way around it. And then on the top of that, I've got the expanded metal, and I built a cage up there, just like a walking cage, which like you see in a lot of things. And I've got it so you just got a ladder going up to it. But if it's sitting flat on the ground before I ever lift it up, it's about I think if you're standing on the cage, it's about I want to say 10 foot off the ground. And then once you hook it to the forks, and then you got about 12 feet that you can go up with the Bobcat. So I can get up about 20 something feet up in the air. So I can do tree trimming and a lot of things like that. And as long as you trust the person on the Bobcat, you're all right. Uh, that's the thing. Yeah, and I bought my telehandler used. Yeah, I bought my telehandler. It's a I think it's like a 98 model. It's 20 30 years old, and I've got a cylinder leaking on it. I'm gonna have to fix it, but it's stout. It's really stout. And see, and we're talking about that cage. Now I actually can put that cage that I built for my Bobcat on the telehandler because I got it set up for forks. So I can put something way up in the air then. And with the cage, it's pretty safe. I mean, you can strap yourself in the cage as long as you don't lose the cage off of the piece of equipment. You're in good shape. Yeah, yeah, you got some serious reach. You got some serious reach when you got that. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's uh, you can do pretty good. You can do pretty good with that. That's the thing that I do like about the telehandler. You can I think I can get up. I'm gonna say 35 feet, maybe 35, 40. Pretty long. I haven't actually measured it per se to see, but it's got it's long and it's stout. And like I said, then you can put the outriggers down so you don't flip it over if you got something extended way out. And then if you got something on top of that and to go up another 10 feet or something in a cage, you can get some serious height. That's more you can get higher than I really want to be. I can tell you that. Yeah. Now see my telehandlers is it's 10,000 pound capacity, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm good on the capacity and everything. Of course, now all that is relative to what all that is relative to whatever you uh, the further out you get, the less tonnage you can lift. Basically, in other words, when they give you a rating of 10,000 pounds, that's extended all the way back in. Then the further out you go, the less that you there's charts on that. But I mean, usually it's still got a lot of strength that it'll do what you want it to do. Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking my boom will extend out 35 feet, maybe 40. I don't know. And like I said, that's I haven't really measured it. It's done everything I want to do. We're able to. The cool thing about the telehandler, especially like here in the shop, if I've got something that's over something, I can actually go in and say if it's something I got a skid that's halfway down the way, and if I can move it around a little bit, usually sometimes I can lift up over that, go down, get it with the skid if I got somebody to help guide it, and then lift it up and bring it back out, bring a complete pallet of something on the backside. So that's what I'm after. I mean, it has some uses that are pretty unique to itself. I mean, telehandlers are uh, they're a daggum. I mean, they've got some very unique situations that you can get yourself in there. I mean, it's pretty nice. I think I like them. I really do. Yeah, and a lot of people you'll see that if you go online and you look at things, there's a lot of farmers that are using telehandlers now because they can lift hay bales and the round bales and they've adapted them to do so many things for them on the farms, on the big farms, And I've seen some monstrous hay. Uh, I guess, well, I guess they made it into a hay platform. I saw one where a guy, and of course, he had like a pad. He had like a cement pad so it wouldn't rot and everything underneath him. But then they basically got all this hay up and then just covered it. And I thought I said that's pretty cool. You didn't have to build a building and basically by having, well, I guess they built that pad for that purpose and they were able to go in there and clean it up. And then when they wanted to take it down, they could just peel it back as they needed to and took it out. It was pretty neat. And I don't you can't beat that. Yeah, yeah, huge squares. I think you must have seen the same one I've seen, Chris. It's pretty interesting. I was wondering where you were, Punk. I thought I was going to have to get it called 911 to Oklahoma and see where you were. Well, you didn't miss anything. I was actually a little bit late too, Ponca. So I signed on a few minutes late. So the regular people that didn't see me for a few minutes, I hope they didn't say, oh well, he's not on today. But I got on about 9:02, I think, instead of 9 or 9:01. I'm over here messing with several things. I'm trying to update some iPads and change a few things. And I was working with my camera and stuff like that. So uh, I was out of sync a little bit myself. So I'm trying to experiment and do some things over here and hopefully bring in a better signal. I think everybody's saying that the signal's good and the audio's good. I hope so. Uh, with this new setup I got because this new camera, like I said, it's a Logitech. Oh, I forget which number it is, but oh yeah, it's yeah. Ponca saw your video too. Oh, you do. You get to start with him now. What kind of run are you getting? Are you running out of Atlanta, comfortable man? And that what we were discussing last time? I thought you were good signal and audio. Okay, good. Yes, Atlanta. Well, I got trucks going into Atlanta. I got them going in out of Savannah, and I got them going in out of Charlotte. So we got trucks going into Atlanta a good bit. I don't have anything out of Atlanta. But if you don't like what you're doing and you wouldn't mind going to Savannah, you get checked out. You let me know because I have an opening, a dedicated run, a daily dedicated run out of Savannah that I need to fill right now, immediately. Okay, you got a buddy that's running for FedEx ground too, huh? Oh, okay. So that's right. Now, do you have a year's experience, comfortable man? Uh, if you get into a situation where you don't want to run those teams, now you let me know. Almost. Okay. Well, yeah, that would be the case. You have to be on team then. If you don't have a year's experience, you have to have either you have to have driving school, then 6 months on a team, and that before you can get cut loose on a single operation run. Oh, okay. Well, the smallest we got so is 28 footers. So that's set of doubles, just like what we pull. Yeah. Yeah. If you get the team, if you get enough qualifications in there and you don't like that team, you let me know and we'll put you to work down in Savannah, because I definitely have some work in Savannah if you want to stay in Georgia. So I could definitely use some drivers down there. So I'm gonna have to put at least one, but maybe two on runs down there. So it's a tough situation. Keeping drivers is a tough thing. Now, I do pretty good. I've got you have home and all in Atlanta. Is that what you're saying? So you actually live in Atlanta, comfortable man. Oh, you're in Conyers, Georgia. Okay, yeah, I know where Conyers is. Uh, yeah, okay, yeah, that'd be tough to uproot yourself then if you already have a home there. I didn't know if you were renting, or a lot of times I get guys that are just renting and they don't mind moving. But Conyers would be a good little haul to. Conyers would be a good little haul to go from there to Savannah. You'd have to uproot yourself because we're about 250 miles southeast of Atlanta. More southern, I guess you might say. Atlanta, where you run down 75 and then over to 16 over to Savannah. So that's why you have to go down there. But it's not too bad. But we got some good runs out of there. That's the thing about it. I mean, I got some uh, Savannah to Atlanta's and Savannah to Charlotte's. Yeah, we're still needing. Of course, unemployment. The thing about it, and the wages are going up. Trump's got it on the right move right now because uh, the wages are going up for everybody. I'm having to pay my drivers more, and our the unemployment is 3.5%. So what that does, that just tightens the market for me, somebody like me that was trying to get more drivers. That tightens the market for me, and the driving pool is less. And the driving pool is less, period, because a lot of people have quit driving trucks. Uh, I don't know how many. I saw a survey a couple of years ago about how many people actually have just quit wanting to be truck drivers. And that used to be a sought after job there for a long time. I mean, that was I know it was when I was young. I mean, there was a good paying job, highly sought after. And now the next generation doesn't want to do it as much. I don't know. Of course, the next generation, we got problems. We got problems with everybody now with all this opiate crisis that hits just about everybody and every family. I mean, I'm gonna turn this lighting thing around here a little bit. Uh, yeah. Well, you can get into that too. You can get into a situation where uh, I mean they were really regulated. There was a time we weren't regulated as much. Yeah, farm use tags is a lot easier to get than the commercial tags and the for hire tags and everything else, and a lot cheaper too. A farm use tag, you can get it for a couple of $100 and pull just about everything. Whereas a for hire tag like I get is $1,800 per truck. So you can imagine, and I just paid my heavy use tax. I pay the heavy use tax $550 per truck in August, and so you can do the math. I have 40, I think 45 trucks. So let's do the math. Scares me. Yeah, my heavy use tax That's how much I paid just a couple of months ago. So you can understand why those things bother me. Uh, and then I got to buy tags. I got to buy tags at $1,800 a piece. And let me do the math on that. There's the cost of my tags. So you can tell where, people tell me a lot of times, they say, you're making the big money. I go, I have to. I have to. You got to realize I have to make big money each week. And if there is a stall in the system where I don't make the money, I'm in bad shape. Yeah, I tell you what, the DOT and the taxes and the tags, you know, it's it can be pretty substantial. I mean, people don't realize that when they're out there trying to start in a trucking business, they go, oh well, yeah, that's not too bad. Well, when you start chunking out these numbers and these things come due, they're due. I can't say, well, I'll just get that tag next week. Can't do it. It's got to be done properly at that time, or they'll pull my contract on that truck. So I can't dilly dally around, as the old saying goes. I can't just dilly dally around and say I'll get that sooner or later. You've got deadlines to meet on that, and uh, you have to do it. I mean, that's it, plain and simple. Yeah. Now that the lawsuits, now we have. I've got one right now pending litigation, I guess you might say. I had one of my drivers rear-ended a pickup truck a year ago. Now this has been almost. It'll be, well, December. It'll be a year. Insurance paid off what was damages were done to the equipment, everything else. I could show you the damage that was done on my truck. It bent the bumper just a little bit, the metal bumper bent it, got a little bit of crease in it. All right, we hit a Toyota. Granted, I mean, it was a Toyota pickup that we hit. The girl couldn't get stopped in time and slid it, almost got stopped, and then this barely caught the bumper. Well, now, what do you think? We got a lawsuit, a personal injury lawsuit against our trucks now, because they saw FedEx great big on the side of the trailers. They're going, they got deep pockets. So they're after that. And, you know, but they waited like 9 months before they ever did this. I mean, it happened in December, and we got the paperwork, I think, back in August. And so they waited 8 or 9 months, and then they said, make sure you do this to your truck, and you hadn't done this to the truck. And I'm going, Jesus Christ. I said, I already put that, that truck went back on the road immediately. It wasn't even damaged so it couldn't drive. I mean, it was so slight. But now we're finding out that this person got back, and the same person got out of their vehicles, of course, walked around, no ambulances took anybody anywhere, nothing. Everybody was fine, all that sort of stuff. But now, 6 months later, I guess somebody said, you could have made some money on that. And one of these lawyers that have billboards all up and down the interstate that say, if you've ever been involved with a tractor trailer wreck, blah, 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 they evidently contacted, I would guess they contacted the person that was in the accident, putting two and two together, because they do that. They have these lawyers that will, scour that. I mean, I know for a fact, because I was involved in a little minor altercation. I was involved with something like that years ago, and gosh, I got 15, 20 letters from lawyers saying, we can sue, we can get you money, we can do this, we can do that. Well, this person evidently decided they wanted a new bass boat or something, and they're taking well, of course, it's the insurances. I'm I'm not really involved with it so much. They're taking the insurance companies to court and claiming a back injury or neck injury or my wallet in my ass injury. I think is the biggest problem. Oh yeah, they do. They do. And that's one reason FedEx trucks. Now this was a trip lease. This was actually one of my trip lease trucks, so it didn't have all the camera action and everything else that I have in the others. And see, I like those new cameras because they have actually saved us. People are claiming one thing, and we go, "Let's go to the video, Bob." So we go to the video, and he goes, that ain't what happened." Now it will convict you too. If you're doing something wrong, you're convicted. If and I've had drivers. I had a driver that hit somebody about 3 or 4 years ago, and he he was on I-95 and he fell out to pass a slow camper that he was coming up on. And when he fell out into the left lane, the traffic was stopping up ahead. Well, and at the same time, somebody had called him on his cell phone, and he reached for his cell phone. He had Bluetooth, he had the headset, but he reached down to see who it was and looked back up, and there's cars stopping, and he couldn't get stopped. And he rear-ended a car. And that one we settled fairly easy. And that one to me was way, way worse than this one that I'm talking about. I mean, uh, it's something out there. But some people want to take it to the nth degree. I don't understand it. They see paydays. They see dollar signs, and these lawyers definitely do. These lawyers are getting filthy. They're getting filthy rich off of this. I mean, they're they're taking everybody for a big ride there. So I'm trying to see if did my upgrade go through. And now install now. Okay. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm doing some computer work here at the same time. I'm upgrading my iPad here. I want to get the new OS on it, and they say it's got some neat features for editing and a few things. So I want to try that. Hopefully, I can get it updated and be able to edit videos. I'm trying to improve. Like I said, with lighting, and like I've got lighting right here. Let me see if I can pull this over here to get a little bit better lighting. I've tried to improve my lighting and my cameras and my camera work, and I hope I'm doing better for y'all guys. I mean, just everybody's, yeah. The cameras facing outward are the ones most of them don't want to see the camera facing in on the driver, but that in itself, if the driver's doing what he's supposed to do, is that's a good thing going to court and everything. No, I haven't done the cement. I've got to do that. I need to edit it down. I've got 4 or 5 hours worth of video. I don't think y'all want to see, the old saying, paint dry or cement dry. I've got a lot. I'm going to try to edit that down to some usable footage that people will be interested in. I don't want it to be so, I mean, it can get boring when you're seeing a guy just try something out, or he's propped up against a pole or something, yeah, that's yeah, you got it, Chris. Yeah, you want to make it, and I've got it. I know y'all would be most interested had I had the video of me making my way out of the Bobcat when the Yellow Jackets got in on me. Now that would have been, had I had the cameras there, now that would have been comical. I'd been like the Three Stooges or something getting out of that thing, because that was the thing. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I mean, going up and down the side cameras, I mean, everybody, Everybody's not doing that. The required cameras from FedEx are the front facing and the driver facing cameras. That's all that is required by FedEx at this time. Don't suggest too many more. Good gosh, I had to put so much equipment. We're going through and put all new logging devices on them. We had to go up to the new ELD that does everything, and I'm having some issues with some of those new ELDs right now. So yeah, don't get too anxious to tell FedEx some new ideas about putting newer cameras and everything else. I mean, a lot of the new trucks are coming equipped with cameras like that, and anything like that that you've got that you can use in your favor to tell your story, I think is a good thing, because there's been many a times where, you know, the camera can, like I said, vindicate. I mean, to give you a perfect example, we had that huge storm. We had a huge storm that came back. Oh, I can't remember. It's been about 6 months ago, 6 or 8 months ago. And I had a guy in West Virginia coming out of he was coming out of sort of funny. He was coming from Hurricane, West Virginia, but he was coming down I-77 and was in a curve, and a gust of wind came by and flipped the rear trailer, the rear box just flipped. I mean, there was such a heavy gust of wind coming off the mountain. And fortunately, we were able to show the weather forecast, everything else, all the camera work and everything. And he was vindicated, because usually, bam, you're out. If you flip a trailer, 99% of the time you are gone. You're looking for a new job. But I mean, everything showed that. Yeah, that was a tough situation. Good driver, and I was really on pins and needles. I'm thinking, gosh, if we can't come up with something that will vindicate him, he's going to lose his job. But the cameras actually vindicated him. So that was one good thing, that camera work. That's a case where camera work really helped us out, and that along with the weather forecast and everything else. Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. Dump drivers, yeah, yeah, that's a whole different thing. Of course, you know, they, you, a dump trailers and dump drivers, that can be tough. I know I almost flipped one years ago, probably 35 years ago, and we had one, and the load, we were hauling sand, and the sand load just got wet. I mean, I'd gone through a storm and everything. It had got wet and kind of stuck in the trailer a little bit. And here I was lifting it, and it's gravity. It's gravity at that point. You can't do anything about it. If it gets to a certain point that it's going to start flipping, you can't stop it. It's gone. If it gets so far, you better have a good feel for something's not right and stop it before it goes wrong. Because if it gets to that pivot point and it starts moving, there's no stopping it. I mean, you're looking at having something up, you know, like that, and if it starts moving, there's too much weight up here in the bed and everything else. You won't be able to stop it. I mean, I know from personal experience. I didn't do one. I twisted a cylinder on one. I got a cylinder that was out of whack, and we had to replace the cylinder, but it didn't mess up the bed, and it didn't flip the trailer over, but it did enough twisting that it messed up the cylinder on the dump bed. So you can easily dump trucks and dump trailers. Dump trailers are the worst, in my opinion, because you got so much. Well, FedEx goes all over. I mean, we go. FedEx goes everywhere. Yeah, yeah. You'll see this dump trailer. Now FedEx goes everywhere. I mean, we're not doing flatland. I mean, we're not doing off road. I mean, but we're doing, you know, hilly work. I mean, you know, you're going every interstate, you know, every mountain that you can climb, and curvy situation, everything else like that. We go. but we're not doing off-road. I mean, off-road work's more dangerous, in my opinion, or some of these mines and things like that, these dirt roads you get involved with and stuff like that. That's way more dangerous uh, than interstates for sure. Yeah, big hills, but on asphalt. That's what we're on asphalt. That's the thing about it. Yeah, when you factor in gravel and dirt, and you don't know how much of the substrate is stable, then you're asking for it. I've been over. We've got a lithium mine that's not too far from us, and in the near future, you're probably going to hear about this a lot because they have found the largest lithium uh, uh, reserve in the world is not more than 10 miles from where I live. And it's less than that, really, just a few miles from where I live. And the reserve comes all the way up, but they're about 10 miles away. They already started buying up all the farms and everything else. And they're talking about, oh gosh, the vein of lithium stretches probably 50 miles. I mean, that's how big of a vein of lithium it is. And they're going to be buying up, or they already started buying up the rights. They're already giving people rights to be able to purchase, I guess, yeah, you can go on. There's a couple of geological things, and it talks about it over here in North Carolina. If you look up lithium reserves, and I can't even think the name of the company. It's an Australian company. There's a company out of Australia, and they are actually going to be mining this. That's not too far from my house, and real close to where my mother and dad, where I grew up. It's within a mile of where I grew up, and uh, but it's a huge deposit of lithium, and y'all guys know what lithium does for everybody. You know, batteries, these iPhones and everything else. That's a huge resource, and you know, Teslas and everything else. So that you'll probably see that on the news uh, as far as resources. Of course, now that's of course if the world don't go to an end in 12 years, uh, which I wish these extremists would read real scientists report. I keep I put up a couple things on Facebook and a few things where 500 scientists last week when that little girl got up and screamed at the UN. 500 scientists, real scientists, not Al Gore, not the science guy, real scientists, wrote to the UN and said the climate change is not as bad as y'all are professing that it's going to be. But these people don't want to believe it. They've got their mind made up. They're saying, oh no, 99% of scientists say that it's true. Well, no, it's not. It's not. And they skewed the figures so badly. And it's like everything else. Follow the money. Follow the money on this deal. What it is, these organizations are trying to do carbon tax. Again, a tax. A tax. It's all about a tax. They want more money that they can extrapolate from the average person. And then they got control. They want tax, they want control. And what are they doing? They're saying, oh, the climate's going to get you. Well, 99% of the scientists will agree on one thing. There's not a lot you can do to change the climate or the weather. You're not going to change it. You can adapt to it. You know, you can put on more clothes if it gets cold. You can take off more clothes if it gets hot. And, you know, look at the things that the one thing we can do, we can adapt like they did back in the 30s, 20s, and 30s when the Dust Bowl was so bad, where Chris and Ponca are out there in the Midwest, out there in Kansas and Oklahoma. And what did they do? They started, you know, learning how to grow the crops right. They started learning how to do terracing right and irrigation right and different things that didn't create these type local situations. The climate warms up a little bit. What happens? Those areas start getting greener. So, you know, it just infuriates me that we have turned, uh, it just infuriates me that people have done such a disservice to tell us the wrong thing. I'm trying. Yeah, I know. We were going to freeze to death at one time, and now they didn't like that, so they quit calling it that. Then they call it global warming for a little bit, and then they realized, well, it got a little bit colder. So what are we going to do? We're just going to call it climate change. And then they're going to get a little kid up in front of a podium and say, "Oh, you're killing everything for me." I've been listening to this Earth Day stuff for 50 years, and these predictions of the world quitting. I mean, the world going away in 10. I've heard 5 times, basically. I mean, the only thing that's changed a lot is Al Gore's pocketbook, where he's gotten friggin' richer off of screaming his extreme thing, and he's got all these gullible snowflakes, as we want to call them, that are listening to his every bated breath. Oh wow, uh, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to do this. Al Gore, you're the greatest. Where would we be without Al Gore telling us this? Well, you'd have a lot more money in your pocket because you've given it to that idiot, and he's flown all over the United States and world preaching this, spewing out carbon in his private plane, and not changing one thing, not one thing has changed since Al Gore has spoken about this. How many years now? Gosh, his crazy program a long time ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gore Senior. Yeah, there's a lot of there. Just like the crap that's coming out about Joe Biden, there's a lot of stuff in the Tennessee area that people. I mean, here I am in Western North Carolina. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that way more than other people in other parts of the United States. Yeah, yeah. Uh, Buford Pusser was good, and he had his good points. He had his bad points. He was like a lot of them. He got rich off of some things, and then got out there and got. I don't know what happened actually. He got killed some way or another. I don't know if a hook or crook. Who knows? Yeah, and that's you hit it right on the head there, Chris. I mean, yeah, I remember when that was going on. I remember when Buford Pusser was going around with his big stick, and you know, you know, he was. If you're living in Tennessee at one time, Chris, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's certain people that you don't mess with up there in Tennessee. I know firsthand. My mother was from Tennessee. She lived over there close to. My mother was raised just like Dolly Parton. My mother and her parents and everything, they moved away from East Tennessee because of the same conditions, only a little bit earlier than Dolly Parton's. And they had 5 daughters, and they moved to the Carolinas to get to work in the mills because there was no work up there. And Grandpa used to say, uh, you know, you know, corn liquor was made to sell, not to drink. And unfortunately, uh, I had a lot of relatives in the bootleg business back then, and it's sort of crazy. I had some that were in the bootleg business, and then we had some that were in law enforcement. My mother's granddad was a sheriff up there, and then I had another cousin up there that actually got killed. He was in the SBI, and they killed him. So he got out there and was uh, out trying to investigate something and got killed up there in Eastern Tennessee. That's been 30 years ago, but it's something. And like I said, you don't mess with some of those people over there. Uh, you can say what you want to, but there's the rule of law is there's when you get to these backwood areas and everything. you better adhere to what the community does, along with the real law too. I mean, they're not gonna. The community won't stand for certain things. I mean, it might, you they so and so down here might be a bootlegger, but you don't go down there and just tear everything apart and ruin his life just to, he's trying to get, uh, yeah, run if you hear banjos, yeah. Well, and that's crazy. We're talking about some of my people up there, and I got some people up there that that when we had the family get-togethers. I wish I had to be. Well, I actually do have some old videotapes that actually. Um, I had one. There was a he was like he wasn't like Porter Wagner, but he was on TV over there at Knoxville and had a show, and he was like a in my area, we'd call it a Fred Kirby because we used to have a guy that came on. He did kiddie shows and did play guitar and dressed up like a cowboy. And he was one of my mother's cousins, and I think he worked out of the Knoxville TV station over there. And I the people in that area knew him well. I did. He was a regional little star, I guess you might say that kids might have tuned in on Saturday morning or after school or something. They'd watch him, and he would show cartoons or different things, and then come back on and be playing his guitar and singing, and that it's a singing cowboy type thing. Yeah, and now my mother was from Del Rio, Tennessee. Not Del Rio, Texas, Del Rio, Tennessee, which is right outside of Newport, Tennessee, which is down from Sevierville, where Dolly Parton and all that. But my mother was raised in almost the exact area that Dolly Parton was raised. So, we I've got we actually celebrated my aunt's 90th birthday yesterday, and she had some pictures when they were young up in Tennessee that I didn't even have. And I told my aunt I need to get some copies of that because they had some pictures of my mother that I had never seen before. And my mother was a lot like Dolly Parton in some ways, a little bit, she was older than Dolly Parton, but my mother was a real pretty blonde lady, and my mother was well endowed like Dolly Parton too. So I don't know. It may be a trait that they had up there in East Tennessee. I don't know, uh, but it's sort of funny. But my mother was blonde. My mother was actually real blonde, and she was a real blonde. And but she and Dad they moved to her family moved to around back into North Carolina and South Carolina, and they they finally ended up in Shelby, North Carolina. That's where my granddad ended up. Uh, and that's where my dad, when he got out of World War II and everything, that's where he met my mother. My dad's from Shelby, North Carolina, and that they got married, and hence comes me. I'm number three of the four boys. So my mom and dad got married right after the war. I think they got married in '46. I think it was. And when Dad got back out of service, and uh, then it started his family and everything else, and it. So I've got tales I could tell about this area. Okay, you're okay. Does it? Okay. Well, I still have family up there in Del Rio, Tennessee. My cousin Farley. Now he lives. He used to live right next to it. I tell you, when my uncle D, when back in the early '70s, my dad, and this is how long ago it was. I-40 had just been cut through the mountains of Tennessee in the late '60s, I think it was. And when we got off of I-40, off the exit ramp, as soon as we got off the exit ramp, it turned into a dirt road. And then that dirt road, we had to travel that dirt road probably 25 to 30 miles on a dirt road to get to where my mother was from. I mean, it was all dirt up in there then, gravel and dirt. Pretty good roads. I mean, it wasn't real bad roads. It wasn't, they were well maintained, but they were dirt roads. And when we got out to the church where my Uncle D was being buried, the graveyard, I remember the graveyard was on such a sloped hill. It was something. I told my dad, I said, they had to pack those babies in there pretty good, or they'll flip out of the grave up there. I mean, it when you bury somebody up on the side of a mountain, you better pack that grave pretty good, because a little bit of extra water and everything else, and you'd have caskets running down the hill. But it's a different lifestyle, and I mean it's good. I mean, everything being said there, and we talk about Dolly Parton type ways and everything. Even though, and most people that lived it loved it. I mean, it was life. It's beautiful, beautiful area. Uh, I remember, like Dolly Parton was talking. I saw her on that TV show recently. I remember being up at Grandma Laws's house up there, and you wanted to stay close to the stove because it was chilly in the rest of the parts of that house, and you didn't want to do it. Get that far away from the stove. That's for sure. And one thing, and they tell you about an outhouse. Everybody had outhouses then. There was no indoor plumbing at all. And the old saying back then was, what, an outhouse in the wintertime, it's 100 yards too far away, and in the summertime, it's 100 yards too close. uh, if you get the idea of that, or the smell of that, you might say. So that's the difference. I mean, it's something. Yeah, yeah. Well, you don't need air conditioning much up there where my mother was from. I've never seen a hot day so bad that you really needed AC up there. She was on the side of the mountain, Del Rio, Tennessee, up there. It was. I remember in the summertime it would get cool. I mean, it got cool up there. You didn't have to worry about getting uh, AC up there. I mean, if it got hot, you could open the screen doors, and that's about all you needed. You opened doors, and a lot of those old houses back then were shotgun houses anyway. You'd have the door in the front and the door in the back, and maybe a few porches and a few things like that. And you open that up, boy, you'd have ventilation through there. Whew. Uh, well, first TV y'all got was in 1974. Well, I was a little more fortunate than that. We had TVs back in the now we we got some color TVs about then, but I had some TVs uh, back in the 50s. Of course, I'm living down here in suburbia. My little town here, 5,280 is what that one person ever for a mile or whatever, something like that, or for every foot. Shoo, I bet so. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, now, Chris. Now, which part of Tennessee is you? You're from Middle Tennessee, weren't you? You weren't from the mountains, were you? Weren't you sort of Middle Tennessee, or more towards Memphis, or on the other side of Nashville? I can't remember what you were saying. Oh, you're on West Tennessee, so you're over there close to Memphis then. Yeah, if you're on the Memphis side, yeah, that's a hotter part of the state for sure. The the East Tennessee part Adamsville. Okay. Savannah. So they got a Savannah in Tennessee. I didn't know that. I mean, I'm familiar with a lot of those small towns. Well, mainly the ones on 40 out there. Well, now Jackson. Yeah, I know where Jackson and Henderson. Yeah, I know Jackson, Jackson, Tennessee. That's where Loretta Lynn's living, I think, isn't it? I believe she lives out there at Jackson. Her and Conway both lived out that way, uh, if I remember right. But I think she had a place out at Jackson, Tennessee, which is um, west of Nashville. What, 100 miles west of Nashville, if I remember right. I I can't remember. It's hard to remember all those towns exactly where they're at. Um, but I'm trying to update my iPad here, and it's asking me all kind of crazy questions here now. It's this new all this new crap. Trying to. I don't know if y'all have updated your if you've got the Apple products, if you've updated that in the past little bit. I'm trying to do two things at one time here. So if you see me looking down my iPad here, I'm trying to get trying to catch up notes and everything. Once you update the software, yeah, 40 or 50 miles out of Nashville. Okay, yeah, I was trying to. Okay, so Loretta lives in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. Is that not close to Jackson? I was I remember seeing a sign about something for Loretta when I was out there off of I-40 somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember where it was exactly. I was thinking it was close to Jackson. I could be wrong. I'm not proficient on all that out there. I remember a few things here and there. Now, of course, I can tell you about things over here on the Western North Carolina pretty good. I can tell you where Earl Scruggs is from and Don Gibson and my neighbor who's big on the Grand Ole Opry. I got a neighbor that's been on the Grand Ole Opry about 6 times this past year, and also you've been longer in Kansas than you have in yeah. So you're headed to Jackson today. So you're going to Jackson, Tennessee, or which Jackson you going to, Greg? I guess Jackson, Tennessee. Well, guys, I'll tell you what, I about talked my voice out. I've been on here a little over an hour now, so I hope I haven't bored you too badly. Oh, so you've been in Kansas. All right. Oh, going to the song. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to Jackson. Johnny Cash and and his wife, June and Johnny Cash. Yeah, actually, Lee Hazelwood's who wrote that song. Him and the first person to sing it with him was Frank Sinatra's daughter. That was back in the '60s. They had Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra. You can look that up. So that's the way it goes. Well, guys, I'm gonna get off here because I've been on here a little over an hour and 10 minutes, and I could tell by my voice that I was getting a little hoarse here. So y'all have a good day, and I will catch y'all next Sunday if I can, and maybe even before that if I get some of these videos out. Look for my videos when you get a chance. See ya.